Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. For today's card, I'm going to be using the Bookworm stamp set from Mama Elephant. I stamped a whole bunch of these images onto some Bristol smooth paper because I'm going to be coloring with my Arteza markers. I wanted the books to kind of be rainbow, so this first color I'm starting with is Rouge Pink. Not exactly a traditional rainbow, but I like to mix it up a little bit. So this second color that I'm using is red. With these books, I just color both ends of the book and then use my water brush to blend the middle. The next color that I used is called Honey. So when this stamp set first came out, it sold out really quickly and I was a little bit too late to buy it, but then it just came back in stock recently and I grabbed it as soon as I possibly could. This next color that I'm using is the Bumblebee Yellow, and for this book that's kind of turned on its side, I didn't do any blending, I just colored in the whole thing. This green color that I used is the Bright Green. I love this stamp set so much. I love these little animals. I think they're so cute, and I like the whole theme of the stamp set. I think it's great for school cards, teacher cards, and also I can do really good bookmarks with it. This color that I'm using now is the Cyanine Blue. And the next blue color that I used is the Royal Blue. When I first started this card, I didn't really know what I was doing with it. I just knew that I wanted to use all of these images as much as possible. So I stamped out a bunch. I had a very vague idea in my head, but I did not know exactly how it was going to go. But I thought I'd just start coloring and then I could cut them out and then I could figure out my layout later. This purple that I'm using is the Orchid Purple. Once I had this row of books all finished, I took those same colors and I colored in the two stacks of books. I forgot to mention earlier that I stamped all of these images in with my Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink. I find that that's a really good ink for coloring with Arteza markers. Other dye inks work well too. This is just the ink that I prefer at the moment. After I had all of the books colored in, I took my Dolphin Gray Arteza marker and added some shadings to all of the paper on the books. I never like to leave white areas just stark white, so I just added a very light amount of that Dolphin Gray and then I blended it out with my brush. Okay, so for this little pig, I'm actually going to color him in the same pink that I used on the books. So this is the Rouge Pink, and I added it to all of the areas that I wanted to be the most shadowed or the darkest, and then I used my water brush to blend it out. And then I came back in with a second layer of color and did the same thing. Once I had that second layer done, I thought that I wanted to warm up that pink color a little bit. So I took out this apricot color and just added a very, very small amount of it to the shadow areas and blended it out. For the book that the little pig is reading, I used the same red that I used in the stacks of books, and I added it to the sides and the bottom and then blended it out. For my little bunny, I pulled out the color Ginger, and just like with the pig, I laid down my color in the darkest areas and then used my water brush to blend it out. While this first layer of color was drying, I colored in the book, and I decided to use the color Honey for the book. And then once the book was done, I went back in with the ginger color on the rabbit and did a second layer of color. And then of course I used the Dolphin Gray to add some shadows onto the book pages. I took that same Dolphin Gray color and started coloring in my little cat. While I was coloring this little kitty, I left the glasses area purposefully lighter. I wanted this gray base on the cat to be really light, and then afterwards I'm going to come in with some stripes to kind of do like a pattern, kind of like this is an American short hair cat. This cat was a little bit inspired by Christina Warner's cats. I really like her cats. I think they're very beautiful. I think my cat is beautiful too. I really love my cat, but sometimes I need a little bit of a break from coloring just a plain black cat. So the first color that I used for these stripes is the Elephant Gray, and then I came in with the Ash Black and did a very, very light amount in the middle of the stripe to really deepen up that color. I also colored in the nose with the Dolphin Gray and then went over that gray with the Rouge Pink color. As you can see, I stamped another book. I was working on a layout in my head while I was coloring, and I thought that I wanted this little book, so I stamped it and then I colored it in the royal blue color. I have this piece of Bristol smooth paper that I'm going to create a patterned background on. I chose to use the Bristol smooth paper just because it was what I had out. It's what I was using for the coloring, so I just grabbed it. So I'm stamping a whole bunch of the images from the stamp set across this panel with the Simon Says Stamp Fog ink. You may have noticed that the book that's all fanned out is a little bit darker, and that's because I didn't clean it off well enough after using it with the intense black ink, but it didn't bother me enough to start over. Next, I pulled out the stamp set by Mama Elephant called Good Reads, and it has a lot of really great sentiments in it that go really well with the bookworm stamp set, and it also has these little hearts, and I used those to fill in all of my white space. I used my ATG gun to adhere a panel of craft cardstock onto an A2 size card base. Next, I took that paper that I created that pattern on and I glued that to my card base. And you'll notice that I cut this paper down so that there's a little bit of a border around the edge. Now I'm going to start adhering all of these little images that I colored, and you'll notice that I did fussy cut them out with some scissors. So I started by gluing these first ones down with my Tombow glue. I glued down the first stack of books, and then I took this little fanned out book and glued it on top of that. When I glue down this second stack of books, I glue it so that it's a little bit taller than that first stack. I didn't want them to be the same height because I knew it'd be more interesting if they were varying heights. And then I glued this kitty on top of that second stack. Now don't worry, I know that that second stack looks like it's flying right now, but I'm actually going to cover the bottom up later so that you won't notice that it looks like it's floating. It'll look like it's just a really tall stack of books. I glued down my bunny so that it looks like he's leaning up against that first stack of books. And then I took this row of books and popped it up with some foam tape and put it right over that second stack of books so that it doesn't look like it's floating anymore. And then I took my pig and I glued him down with a combination of Tombow glue and foam tape. Next, I'm going to create my sentiment. So I took out one of my scraps of black cardstock and I prepped it with my powder tool for some heat embossing. I'm going to use one of the sentiments from the Goodreads stamp set, which says "Your Tops" in my book, and I'm going to stamp it with Versamark ink, and then I'm going to emboss it with a white embossing powder. Once that was embossed, I cut it down, and then I popped it up with some foam tape on the side of my card. Using my white gel pen, I added just a few highlights to my little animals. Next, I pulled out this Pilot Silver paint marker, and this is a really fine point paint marker, and I went around the border and did some dashed lines. When I was looking at this little scene that I created, I thought that it really needed to be grounded, so I pulled out my Prismacolor pencils and I took this 20% French gray pencil and I added some shadows underneath all of the images. I then took the 50% French gray and I deepened up the shadows in the areas that are the closest to the images. Next, I took my Wink of Stella glitter brush and I added it all over the sentiment strip. I pulled out a few different sizes of clear sequins and glued them down using my Tombow glue and my tweezers. Next, I took out my glossy accents and I filled in the glasses on the little cat. Finally, the last thing that I did is I took that 20% French gray back out and I just blended in the shadows just a little bit more, and then this card was all done. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this cute little card using the Mama Elephant stamp sets Goodreads and Bookworm. All of the supplies that I used today can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with a new video on Friday. Also, just a reminder, the 1,000 subscriber giveaway is still going on. If you haven't entered into that and you'd like to, head on over to my website and you can enter on there. Again, thank you for watching today. I appreciate all of you and I hope you have a great day today.